Hey, hello, I'm Tunesy, if you couldn't tell by the channel name, of course. Oh my goodness, guys. Today is day freaking 13. 13. I don't know which way it's gonna go. That's why I did both ways, because when I look at the freaking back at the video footage, it's freaking inverted. And so, like, blah, blah, blah. And so I look stupid whenever I do 14, and it's actually this way. When I do 14, and it's actually this way. Anyways, oh yeah, state. I mean, state 13, day 13. Um, almost halfway through, guys. No, we're not. Not even close, but it's okay. 25 is halfway through, but it's all right. It's all right. We're almost there. We're almost to day 14, and that's 2 weeks. Ah, and then I think in six more days, 6 7. Okay, I gotta stop actually. No, but in 6 more days, I think it's gonna be freaking October 1st. Oh yeah. But I am busy these next few days. Yikes. I have a funny story to tell, by the way. So um I was freaking okay, I was freaking writing the script for today's video, right? So this one right now. I wasn't able to write it at all during school because I only had 44-minute classes. So I had to come home and do it. And that today's video is kind of longer than the other ones that I've been doing recently. But anyways, that's besides the point. I was writing the script for today's video and I fell asleep with the computer on my chest. Can y'all believe that? I failed, y'all. So it is currently actually 12:24 freaking in the at midnight. Wow. Good job, Tracy. And then I had to edit freaking um Idaho's video. So that's great, that's freaking great. And yeah, anyways, today's song of the day is Birds Don't Sing by TV Girl. The genre is alternative and indie. And yeah, I think that's all I gotta say. Let's get started. Oh, I didn't freaking mention, but today's freaking state is Illinois. Oh yeah, Illinois, day 13. Oh yeah. Fun fact about me, actually. The Chicago Bulls is one of my favorite basketball teams. What can I say? Also, yes, I am interested in basketball. So yeah, um, today's crime scene is based around the St. Valentine's Day massacre, which happened, I'm guessing, in Chicago, Illinois. I think it was in Chicago, Illinois, if I'm not wrong. I could be wrong. I'll correct myself. It's whatever. But yeah, let's get started. On February 14th, 1929, 7 men were in the garage waiting for the truck and for George Morin, the leader of the Northside Gang, and Willie Marks and Ted Newberry, who were running late. The 7 men in the garage were Albert Kachalik, Adam Hayer, Albert Weinshank, Frank Gusenberg, and his brother, Peter. Two non-gang members were also present. Reinhard H. Swimmer and John May. May was fixing the wheel of a truck. Between 10:30 to 10:35 a.m., a black Cadillac pulled up outside the garage. The driver and front seat passenger wore police uniforms. The 3 men in the back wore civilian clothes. They exited the car and went to the garage. Shortly afterwards, Morin drove past and saw what he thought was a police car. He went around the corner for a cup of coffee to avoid what he presumed to be a raid in progress on the premises. The 7 men inside the garage were forced to line up against the wall facing it. The assailants then shot them in the back with Thompson's submachine guns. The shooting was methodical, with fire directed along the line of men 3 times at the level of the head, chest, and the stomach. 70 rounds were fired from the machine guns and one from a sawed-off shotgun in the first volley. The coup de grace was then applied to Clark and May with the shotgun. The gunmen left by the front door, 2 in civilian clothes, holding their hands above their head, were followed by the 2 wearing police uniforms, holding the Thompson submachine guns, as if they had their companions under arrest. Neighbors were alerted to the massacre by highballs May's dog barking and called the police. When they arrived, the police found six dead men and one, Frank Gusenberg, still alive. He had crawled 20 feet from where he had been shot, despite having been hit multiple times. Gusenberg was taken to the Alexan Brothers Hospital in Elk Grove. He was interviewed by Sergeant Clarence Sweeney of the Chicago Police Department, who asked him, "Who shot you?" Gusenberg replied, "No one. No one shot me." Sweeney then said, "Frank, Pete's dead, and you're in a bad way. Who shot you?" Gusenberg replied, "No one." He died shortly afterwards. Within hours of the shooting, Chicago's district police, the city's detective bureau, the Illinois Attorney General's office, and the coroner's office under Herman Buddinson all opened separate investigations, which operated largely independently from one another. The situation was confused by an announcement from the Chicago Deputy Prohibition Administrator Major Frederick D. Silloway that the police had undertaken the killings. Although he retracted his statement later that day, several newspapers carried headlines that stated the police were involved. The day after the massacre, the coroner ordered a reenactment, which was held at the garage. They kept in line with the known events as far as possible, including having Highball the dog present. Instead of a coroner's jury, Buddinson assembled a panel of unimpeachable Chicagoans to assist. Headed up by Bert Macy, the president of the Colgate Palmolive Peat Company, plainclothes police and one of the reporters present played the roles of the victims. Other police lined up as the gunmen, each holding a shotgun. Buddinson formally opened his inquest the same day. Macy contacted Calvin Goddard and paid for him to set up a laboratory in Chicago with his team and all his equipment. He soon began examining shell casings and bullets from the scene. He also examined the Thompson machine guns owned by the Chicago police and stated that their weapons had not been used in the shootings. Police began house to house questioning of residents and shop owners. At 2051 North Clark, they spoke with Minnie Arvidson. She described two men who claimed to be taxi drivers that had taken a room at the front of the house overlooking the garage. These were later identified as Byron Bolton and James Monrad, or possibly Jimmy McCruzen, the lookouts. A second landlady, Miss Michael Duty, provided details of what turned out to be another possible lookout. He also claimed to be a taxi driver who would arrive at the house each day at 9 a.m. and was joined by two other men at around 9:30 a.m. They would leave at around 3:30 p.m. She was shown photographs of possible suspects and identified Harry Keywell, a member of the Purple Gang. When he was later questioned, Keywell provided a solid alibi for his activities on the date and time of the shooting. Police also raided many of the city's speakeasies, causing the Chicago outfit a considerable loss of income. On February 22nd, 1929, police were called to the scene of a garage fire on Wood Street, where they found a partially dismembered and burnt 1927 Cadillac sedan. Saws, an axe, and an accelerant torch had been used in dismantling the vehicle. A police siren was lying in the corner, and a burned hat and coat were on the floor. They also found a Thompson drum magazine and a Luger pistol. Inquirers turned up at a nearby doctor's office where a man with burns had asked for treatment. When he was told to wait, he left. The car had been purchased secondhand in Chicago on December 15th, 1928, by James Morton of Los Angeles, California, who paid $350 for it. The Los Angeles Police Department failed to provide any possible leads as the man's identity. Police established that the garage had been rented by a man calling himself Frank Rogers. After searching one of the Maddox's offices, the police found a connection with activities in St. Louis, Missouri. Their counterparts there told them that criminals had disguised themselves in police uniforms to commit crimes on several occasions. The best known perpetrator of this was Fred Burke, a member of the city's Egan's Rats crime gang. Burke was described as missing a front tooth and had a partner in crime who went by the name of James Ray, an alias of Gus Winkler. One of the witnesses who saw the fake police car arrive outside the North Clark Street garage was a chaffier of H. Wallace Caldwell, president of the Chicago Board of Education. He had noticed the police driver was missing a front tooth. Egan's Rats left St. Louis in the mid 1920s and became associated with the Purple Gang of Detroit, which had business connections with Capone. Police soon named Burke as a suspect. On February 27th, a 1926 Peerless touring car was blown up at the junction of First Street and Harvard Avenue in Chicago's Maywood suburb. Again, a police siren was found at the scene with the shotgun shells of the same brand used in the massacre. License plates bearing the same prefix as used by the Chicago Detective Squad, and a small notebook belonging to Weinshank, one of the massacre victims. Police considered this second car and the items a plant to disrupt their investigation. Kifa considers discovery of the second vehicle to give credibility to the possibility of two cars having been used in the massacre. As Capone was in Florida at the time of the shooting, William Russell, Chicago's police commissioner, ordered investigation of the other members of the Chicago outfit. On the same day the Peerless was blown up, police arrested Jack McGurn at Chicago Stevens Hotel, where he and his girlfriend were staying under the names Mr. and Miss Dioro. His girlfriend provided his alibi that they had spent Valentine's Day together in the hotel room. According to Amanda Parr, McGurn's biographer, he was one of the mob's history's most prolific and notorious hitmen. Others arrested were members of Capone's gang, John Scalise, Albert Anselmi, and Rocco Fornelli. McGurn, Anselmi, and Scalise were all charged with the murders, but the charges were dropped because of a lack of evidence. Capone soon heard that Scalise and Anselmi had met with Joe Alio. Also present was another of Capone's men, Joe Guinta. Capone heard the men were plotting to assassinate him and take over his territory. Furious at being double-crossed, Capone invited the three to a dinner in their honor of the plantation, a Capone-owned roadhouse. During the evening, Capone used a cut-down baseball bat to murder all three before he and his men shot the corpse. Their bodies were found on May 8th. On May 13th, Capone attended a meeting of crime lords in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Many of the leaders were concerned by the publicity caused by the massacre and increased level of official interest in their business. There was also some anger about the deaths of the three Sicilian hitmen, Anselmi, Scalis, and Guente. The bosses put pressure on Capone to lower his profile by spending a short time in prison. Leaving Atlantic City, Capone and his bodyguards stopped off in Philadelphia, where they were arrested by two police officers whom Capone knew, James Malone and John Creedon. Within 16 hours, he had been charged, appeared in court, found guilty, and sentenced to a year in prison. The massacre case stagnated until December 1929, when Fred Burke, drunk, drove into another car in St. Joseph, Michigan. Patrol Charles Skelly intervened. Burke shot him 3 times and drove off. Skelly died 3 hours later. Police raided Burke's bungalow and found $310,000 in bonds recently stolen from a Wisconsin bank, two Thompson submachine guns with 9 ammunition drums, 6 tear gas bombs, 2 rifles, a sawed off shotgun, and an estimated 5,000 rounds of ammunition. The weapons were forensically examined and were identified as those used in the massacre. Police also discovered that one of them had also been used to murder Frankie Yale 18 months earlier. No further evidence surfaced relating to the massacre. Burke was captured in March 1931. The case against him was strongest in connection to the murder of Skelly, so he was tried in Michigan for that crime and subsequently sentenced to life imprisonment. He died in prison in 1940. On November 17th, 1931, Buddinson closed his inquest. He said, "All who were under suspicion are now dead, save one, and he has received a life penitentiary sentence." In his final report, he concluded that the killings were by persons unknown. In January 1935, Byron Bolton was arrested on a matter unrelated to the Valentine's massacre. Questioned by the FBI, he provided full details relating to the murders. J. Edgar Hoover reported the details to Assistant Attorney General Joseph B. Keenan. In a note, Bolton stated that the person who actually perpetrated this massacre were Fred Goetz, Gus Winkler, Fred Burke, Ray Nugent, and Bob Carey. Bolton stated that he personally purchased the Cadillac touring car, which was used in the massacre, having been furnished with the money to make this purchase by Louise Lipschultz. Bolton identified Capone as having given the order to kill Morin to take over his territory. When the killers were in the garage, none of them knew what Morin looked like, so rather than risk the possibility of missing Morin, killed all of the persons found in the garage. Bolton denied taking part in the murders. The listed names matched those provided in the 1934 memorials of Gus Winkler's widow, Georgette. Jonathan I. disputes Bolton's confession and states that two of the people listed had alibis. I goes on to say that the plot involved too many people just to kill Morin, when one person could have waited outside the target's house to kill him, and that once having missed, it was likely that Capone would not try again. Instead, I thinks the more likely suspect is Three-Fingered Jack White. White's motive was that his cousin had been murdered by the Gusenberg brothers. Accusations of White's possibility role in the murders had been contained in a letter sent to Hoover by Frank T. Farrell. Arthur J. Larigio and John J. Binder believed the letter from Farrell to be problematic, and therefore so was the Farrell assertion. They observe that many of the names and dates in Farrell's theory are incorrect, including the probable identity of his cousin's murderers. The biggest weakness in the theory of White as one of the murderers is that he was incarcerated in Cook County Jail between March 1926 and July 1929. Arthur J. Balik concludes that Tony Accardo was one of the gunmen in a team assembled by Jack McGurn, and that the other gunmen were Burke, Winkler, Goetz, and Carey. Balik considers that this marked the start of Accardo's rise to him eventually leading the Chicago outfit. Oh my gosh. This one might be my actually longest one. 20 freaking minutes. Without editing, by the way. Um, I had to redo this 3 times. I almost gave up and just, dropped the series. Screw you guys. I'm gonna quit. But no, I did it just for you guys. And I decided to just, do it 3 more times. My fucking voice hurts now, though. Anyways, this one is probably one of the longest stories since it's around 20, 21 minutes. Ow. And yeah. This one's kind of a confusing story because I'm not quite sure if they actually caught the murderers or not. And also, it was taking place in other states, not just Illinois. But I mean, the massacre was taking place in Illinois, but Burke was in Michigan, and then there was some in Wisconsin, and some all over the place. So it's whatever. Illinois is done with. I didn't know Illinois was going to be that long. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was only going to be like, around the time 14, 12 minutes. But that's the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy it so far. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.